Good day, everyone. Today we will be presenting our reporting about project communications management. So, I am Princess Maylak Bayo and I will be reporting the first part or the introduction and also the first process of project communications management. So, let us start. So, first, what is project communications management? So, according to the book, project communications management, it includes the processes necessary to ensure that the information needs for the project and its stakeholders are met through development of artifacts and implementation of activities designed to achieve effective information exchange. So, from the word itself, communication, um, in the project, communication is very important because in that way, makita na to ang improvements and also how the project works. So if there are improvements, there are updates. So through communication, anha ma-update, anha na to may bawon ang improvements or unsa na ang process nga needed for the project. So we have here the two parts that consist our project communication management. First is developing a strategy to ensure communication is effective for stakeholders. So, according to the book, so first is developing a strategy. So, developing a strategy is very important in communication because it helps us to have an effective communication between two people. So, in this part, it is a strategy to ensure an effective communication to the stakeholders. So these stakeholders are the bosses, and the communication between them is very important. So having a strategy to ensure an effective communication um, is very important. And also for the next is carrying out the activities. So these strategies, you need to have an activity to implement the strategy. So implementing the strategy will also have an effective communication towards the stakeholders or other people involved in the project. So these are the processes that involves in project communications management. We have the 10.1, which is the plan communications management. The plan communications management is a process of developing an appropriate approach and plan for project communication activities based on the information needs of each stakeholder or group, available organizational assets, and the needs of the project. And next is the 10.2, which is the managed communications. This is the process of ensuring timely and appropriate collection, creation, distribution, storage, retrieval, management, monitoring, and ultimate disposition of project information. And lastly is the third process, which is the monitor communication, which is the process of ensuring the information needs of the project and the stakeholders are met. So I will be explaining first the plan communications management. So this is the project communications overview. So as we can see here, we have the three processes. The first is the plant communication management, and each has the inputs, tools, and techniques, and also the outputs. So as we can see here, the 10.1, 10.2, and 10.3, and this will be discussed further as the reporting goes on. So we have the key concepts for project communication management. So um, for me, it is very familiar because ato na ninyagian pag previous na to nga subjects, especially in English. So I will just explain again what are these key concepts. So first is the written form. So you all know what is written form. So it is either physical or electronic. Also the spoken, it's either face to face or remote. So next is the formal or informal. So this involves the letters or papers, which is in the formal papers or social media communication. Next is through gestures. So the tone of voice and the facial expressions, especially when you are having a meeting or reporting, this kind of reporting. So also the gestures and the tone of your voice is very important in communication, and also the through media. So through media, we can communicate through pictures, the actions, or even the choice of words that we'll be using. Next is the choice of words. There is often more than one word to express an idea. There can be subtle differences in the meaning of each of these words and phrases. So the choice of words, sa kaning key concepts kay is very important, especially other people misunderstood um, other words, especially in expressing an idea. So example, you will be speaking a word then, and then ang kanang a word is kanang daghan siya og meaning. So the choice of words, or especially the choice of words in the phrase or in a sentence is very important para maiwasan, para likayan nato ang kanang mga misunderstanding in a communication. So these are the key concepts. So next, I will be discussing the dimensions in communication activities. So first is the internal. So internal communication involves the stakeholders within the project. So sa internal nga communication, it only involves the stakeholders, especially the communication between the project manager to the stakeholders. So if ever na communication na only for stakeholders, so muna siya, internal lang na siya. But in the external, it involves the customers na. Customers, the vendors, and other project organization, or even the government. So the communication outside the project or outside the involvement of the project, it is external. And also the formal. So the formal is the reports or the formal meetings that will be happening during the communication. Also, the informal, so the formal is the reports, so it is given in a formal way, and also the informal using emails, so or social media, so we can communicate through messenger, through emails, gmails, or Instagram, so that way we can say that that communication is informal. And we have here the hierarchical focus, the position of the stakeholder. So we have three. So the upward, so senior communication, senior management stakeholders. So this communication is only for the upward, so which is muna siya ang mga higher bosses na to sa as a project manager. So if the communication only involves the senior management stakeholders, so sila ra jud na dapat walay laing masagol, and in that and kana nga part is na involved ay nagkuha na siya sa upward nga hierarchical focus. Next is the downward. So if the meeting is only involves the team of the project, so mo na siya ang sa downward. And the horizontal, mo na siya ang peers or sa colleagues nimo sa kana nga kuan paghimo nimo sa imong project or the team. The next is the official. So muna siya mga annual reports, reports to regulators or government bodies. The unofficial, building strong relationships using flexible and often informal means, which is the the written and oral. It is verbal words and voice inflections, and non-verbal, which is the body language and action. So mura to siya mga activities, communication activities that involves in project communication management. So let us proceed for the 5 C's of written communication in composing a traditional non-social media written or spoken message. So the 5 C's are the correct grammar and spelling. Next is the concise expression and elimination of excess words. Clear purpose and expression directed to the needs of the reader. Coherent logical flow of ideas. Controlling flow of words and ideas. So for the correct grammar and spelling, it is very important to communicate with correct grammar and spelling, especially if you are communicating through papers or reports. So in that way, ang communication or the interaction between two people is concise ba kanang murag dili maglisod ang reader sa kana nga report or sa kana nga communication to understand what you want to give, or what do you want to give the information, or unsa nga information imong ihatag. So dapat correct grammar and spelling. Next is the concise of expression. So the expression and the elimination of excess words. So unsa lang imong purpose, mura gyud na imong kuan. So expression sa nimo dapat sakto ang imong paghatag. So if formal, so dapat formal sa ang imong pag-express sa imong words. and also the purpose, the clear purpose. So kung unsa lang imong purpose sa kanang communication, dapat mo gid na dili ka magliko-liko sa imong istorya. So dapat kung unsa lang jud ang goal nimo na if ever mo update ka sa imong project, so update lang jud diretso na ka, update ka kung unsa na flow sa imong project and the current logical flow of ideas. So dapat kung jud ka sa imong ideas kana coherent. So, dapat logical imong pagstorya or kanang walay mga other sense sa imong istorya ba kanang walay mga nonsense sa imong gipang storya. So, dapat kung unsa lang gid ang imong purpose kanang communication, dapat mao na imong pasabot sa imong ka-communicate sa imong ka-istorya. Next is the controlling of flow of words. So, dapat dili kayo overword lang, dili pud dapat kanang kuwang. So, dapat sakto lang ang imong pagstorya, dili magkuwang ang information nimong mahatag sa imong ka-communicate. So that is the 5 C's. And also for the written communication na siya in composing a traditional written or spoken message. For this next 5 C mo na siya, next is mo na siya ang kanang written communication that are supported by communication skills, which is the listening actively. So if you are communicating, so it is the sender and receiver man. So as a receiver also, you should listen actively. So dapat kanang ang effective mo na communication, it involves two man, di ba? The sender and the receiver. So to have an effective communication, dapat minaw sa kasi mo kasturya and awareness of cultural and personal differences. So especially in formal meetings, so natay mga stakeholders nga naa sa kanang lain sila og race or lain sila og lugar nagpuyo gikan sa Japan. So ang dapat aware ka sa ilang culture, aware ka sa inyong personal differences kay di ta ko ta kay bo lahi na imong sa imong through sa imong pag-express or through sa imong pagstorya kay na misunderstood sa stakeholders. So dahil chance na ma-misunderstood ang imong storya, so naay chance nga di mo magkasinabtanay. And also it involves conflict of conflicts sa inyong communication and also identifying, setting and managing stakeholder expectations. So unsa yung gi-expect sa imuha. So dapat imuhang pareho siya sa first purpose. So kung unsa gi-expected na siya sa inyong meeting, sa inyong communication, dapat ma-reach na nimo. And also the enhancement of skills. So the communication skills dapat enhance na siya para para ang inyong communication is effective. And next is the fundamental attributes of effective communication activities. So the clarity on the purpose of communication, defining its purpose. So same relevant from previous discussed. Next is understanding as much as possible about the receiver of the communication, meeting needs and preferences, and the monitoring and measuring effectiveness of the communication. So let's discuss for the trends and emerging practices in the project communication management. So we have the inclusion of stakeholders in project reviews, the inclusion of stakeholders in project meetings, the increased use of social computing, and the multifaceted approaches to communication. So that are the trends and emerging practices. And the tailoring considerations, we have the stakeholders, the physical location, the communication, technology, and language, and also the knowledge management. So, kani sa considerations kay ano siya mo dapat i-consider during the communication. So, stakeholders. So, dapat kung stakeholders, as a project manager, you should have a big respect to them because they are your bosses or these are the people um, who who wants to have a project, 'di ba? Ikaw ra man mo manage. So dapat kay baka kinsa imong mga ka-meeting, kinsa ang mga stakeholders imong ka-meet. And next is the physical location, where is the setting of your meeting or where is the setting of the communication. So it's either virtual or face to face. And also the communications technology, that is what I said. The communication technology, we already have a lot of communication technologies, especially the Zoom, the Google Meet, the Messenger. Daghan kayo siya o different communications technology. And the language, especially katong we discuss ganina nga, dapat aware ka kung unsa ang language sa imong kastorya. If nakaistorya ka og Korean, ya imo siyang istoryaan og Tagalog. So, naa jay chance na di siya kasabot, di siya kasabot nimo, especially if dili siya kabaw mo speak og Tagalog. So, dapat aware ka kung unsa iyang language so that pag-communicate nimo is ma-adjust nimo ang imong pag-istorya kung unsa pod yung gamiton nimo nga language. And also, next is the knowledge management. So, you should be knowledgeable enough to about the information nga imong i-communicate sa other people. So, dapat ang knowledge nga imong ay the information is dapat kibaw ka kung unsa imong gibang storya, kung unsa imong purpose sa kana nga communication. So, let's start for the processes. So, the 10.1 is the plan communication management. So, this is the process of um, developing an appropriate approach and plan for project communication activities based on the information needs of each stakeholder or group, available organizational assets, and the needs of the project. So, mo siya ang pag-plan nimo sa imong communication. So, these are the this is the process. So, we have here the communication management inputs, tools, and techniques and outputs. So, let's discuss these inputs, tools, and techniques and outputs each. So, mano siya ang data flow diagram. So, naatay inputs diri, which is the project charter, the project management plan, the project documents, the enterprise organization. So, mano siya na-include sa project and the plan communication management. Then, for the output, mo na siya maka-produce na tao project management plan. So, let's start for the inputs. So, the first input is project charter. As what I've said, this is described in section 4.1.34.1. The project charter identifies the key stakeholder list. It may also contain information about the rules and responsibilities of the stakeholders. So, sa project charter kay since nakahimo naman tao project charter paglas, so as we have learned from the previous reportings kay mo na siya naadara ang katong mga need nga buhaton and i-consider na to in performing the project or in planning the project. So mo na siya ang sa project charter. Next is the project management plan. So sa this component include but are not limited to, first is the resource management plan. So kani wait for a while. So kanang first kanang nga input about na siya sa tara. Una siya ang nag-describe in section 9.1.3.1 which provide guidance on how the team resources will be categorized, allocated, managed, and released. Team members and groups may have communication requirements that should be identified in the communication management plan. And for the next project management plan component is stakeholder engagement plan, which is identifies the management strategies required to effectively engage stakeholders. And these strategies are often fulfilled via communication. So, wala siya ang sa project management plan. Next is the project documents. So, for the project documents, these are considered as inputs for this process included but are not limited to. First is the requirements documents. So, muna siya requirement documents nga needed or include sa project stakeholder communication. And for the stakeholder register, the stakeholder register is used to plan communication activities with stakeholders. So, muna siya mga activities included sa mga stakeholders. Next is enterprise environmental factors. So, these are organizational culture, political climate and governance framework, personnel administration policies, stakeholder risk thresholds, established communication channels, tools, and systems, global, regional, or local trends, practice, or habits, and geographical distribution of facilities and resources. So, muna siya sa enterprise environmental factor. And for the organizational process assets, we have here the organizational policies and procedures for social media ethics and security, the organizational policies and procedure for issue risk, change, and data management, Also, the requirements for organizational communication, the standardized guidelines for development, exchange, storage, and retrieval of information, the historical information and lessons learned repository, and stakeholder and communication data information from previous projects. So, ano siya? Organizational process asset. So, next, muna to siya ang inputs. Next is for the tools and techniques. So we have here the first tools and techniques, the expert judgment. This is described in section 4.1.2.1. Expertise should be considered from individuals or groups with specialized knowledge or training in the following topics. So ano siya? Dapat expert sila for politics and power structural in organization, environment and culture of the organization, organizational change management approach and practices, industry or type of project deliverables, organizational communication technology, organizational policies and procedure regarding legal enforcement of corporate communication, also the organizational policies and procedure regarding security, and stakeholders including customer or sponsors. Muna siya ang mga expert judgment. And next is the communication requirements analysis. This analysis of communication requirements determines the information's needs of the project stakeholders. These requirements are defined by combining the type of format of information needed with an analysis of value of the information. So these are the following: stakeholder information and communication requirement from within the stakeholder register and stakeholder engagement plan. Next is the number of potential communication channel or path included, one to one-to-many, and many-to-many communication. Organizational charts, the project organization and stakeholder responsibility, development approach, discipline and department, specialty involved in the project, logistics of how many persons will be involved with the project and which location, internal information needs, the external information needs, and also the legal requirements. So, ano siya ang mga communication requirement analysis. Next is communication technology. So this method used to transfer information among project stakeholders may vary significantly. Common methods used for information exchange and collaboration include conversation, meeting, written documents, databases, social media, and websites. So we have here the urgency of the need for information, availability and reliability of technology, ease of use, project environment, sensitivity, and confidentiality of the information. So kaya naman tayo communication technology, we are very aware of this because mo na siya tong halos everyday use nga communication. Bisan dili sa project, also as a student, gamit sa din to, especially the communication between teachers or instructors to students. So kani mo ni siya ang technology nga gamiton in communication as I have said here, the sensitivity and confidentiality of the information. So, mo na siya naatay ang personal message nga mo na siya ang communication nga mag-involve sa two-person rado la. Naputay group chat, which is the group chat mo na siya daghan ang tao nga makakita, daghan nga group of people ang makabasa sa imong message. Pero kung ganahan ka og confidentiality of the information, dapat naasay kanang ang communication is involved in the two persons ra. And also sa emails kay naa sa pinabantayan niya if naa kay ganahan nga information nga ikuan uban nga naay passwords ang pag-open sa message or naay kanang mga kanang naalam jud usa lang walay sa imuha lang email jud ba isan diretso wala na kanang mga kuan sa mga groups na communication. And also the if ever urgency of the need of information, it is very important, especially ang gamitin usually is messenger. So sa kana kung informal message lang or informal communication lang, we can use messenger or emails. Next is the communication model. So we have here the communication model. So sample basic sender or receiver communication model. So aware naman tayo nino nga ang communication is two. So we have here the sender and the receiver. So as we can see here, we have here the encode. So example ako ang sender. So I will be encoding my message and transmit the message. We have the noise, which is the barrier. Then It is very kanang common man gyud nga naamong gyud tay noise, especially if kanang ani magamit ta og medium. Then decode, so mo-decode na na atong message, then balik ni diri sa ato ang sender, which is makita nato kung sa atong gi-encode. And then encode na mo-decode na siya, mo-ditso na siya sa receiver dayon pod exam nimo. So naatay after sa decode, babasa na sa receiver na nadayoy feedback message. So ang feedback message from receiver padung na pud siya sa sender. So same process, ang receiver yang encode ang message, which is iyang feedback na message, then process na po, transmit na po ang message to the sender. So, as we can see here, na ay current emotional state. So, ang pag-send daw sa message is mag-base both daw sa current emotional state sa sender o sa receiver. So, as we can see here, na ay culture. So, na ay culture nga involvement, which is the generational, national, professional discipline, and gender. So, mara siya ang mga biases, assumptions na assumption niya nga mga personality bias. And then also the same po siya sa receiver. So, mo na siya. And also, next is the sample interactive communication model, which is the acknowledge or feedback or response. So, mo na siya. Ma-acknowledge na ay times sa kaning kuan kay kanang kabantay mo na ay communication. May example, mo send po og message kay mo acknowledge, murag na ay mo send nimo nga o you already sent a message to something na. So, ma-acknowledge po ka nga ang imong message di ay kay na-send dito sa imong gihatagan. And also, the feedback or response, mo na siya ang imuhang pamatuod nga nabasa niya and also na feedback niya pasabot ihang na receive ang imuhang message. So, mo na siya ang sa communication models. Next is communication methods. So, we have here the interactive communication, push communication, and pull communication. So, different approaches should be applied to meet the needs of the major forms of communication defined in a communication management plan. We have the interpersonal communication. So, interpersonal communication, ako o ang receiver. So, only two people. Small group communication, pwede three people. Ano siya, small group lang, or example pa ng meetings by group or team lang, sa team lang, gamay lang nga team. So, ang public communication, wala na siya ang communication nga involved na ang mga public people. So, na ang kanang mga tao nga involved, which is the mga stakeholders, project managers, ang mga involved parties sa project, so nga na. And also, the mass communication mo na siya, mas dako na siya sa public. And another network social communication, sometimes it involves media na may mga media or mga kanang mga involvement ng mga tao nga kuan sa social media or networks nga mo spread sa communication, mo spread sa information rather. So we have here the interpersonal and team skills, the communication styles assessment, political awareness, and cultural awareness. And for the data representation, a data representation technique that can be used for this process includes, but not limited to, stakeholder engagement assessment matrix. The stakeholder engagement assessment matrix displays gap between current and desired engagement levels of individual stakeholders. It can be further analyzed in this process to identify additional communication requirements beyond the regular reports as a method to close any engagement level gaps. And lastly is the meeting. So project meetings can include virtual or e-meetings, which is the same pag-pandemic na style, which is na nagamit ng Zoom meeting or Google Meet meetings, or face-to-face meetings, and can be supported with document collaboration technologies. So naanay mga sahay mag-record sila, kana naay mga mag-record sa voice, na mag-record sa video, nga na. And also including email messages and project websites. And the planned communication management process requires discussion with the project team to determine the most appropriate way to update and communicate project information and to respond requests from various stakeholders for information. So, mo na siya, meetings. Mo na siya ang sa meetings. So, it is very important to have an effective communication, especially in the meeting. Kay dira naman na makisgot kung sa mga nahitabo na sa project o sa naikuan. So, to have a appropriate ways or mga strategy yun sa una to have an more effective and efficient communication, dapat ikaw mo plan ka sa communication, dapat mo base pug ka kung kinsa ang mga tawo involved ana nga communication or the meeting. So that is for the um, tools and techniques. So last, we have here the output. So dahil naman to sa inputs, the tools and techniques. So none na to expected na outputs. The first is the communications management plan. So the communication management plan is a component of the project management plan that describes how project communication will be planned, structured, implemented, and monitored for effectiveness. And these include guidelines and templates for project status, meetings, project team meetings, e-meetings, and email messages. The use of project website and project software can be included if these are to be used in the project. So, mo na siya. Naghimo na ta og communication management plan after those processes. Then, next is the project management plan update. So, na update. So, any change to the project management plan goes through the organization's change control process via change request. So, if na mga changes sa ato ang plan, we need to process via change request, and the stakeholder engagement plan is updated to reflect any processes, procedures, tools, or techniques that can affect the engagement of stakeholders in project decisions and execution. And next is project documents update na. So mag-update na sa documents. So may be updated to reflect communication activities. We have the stakeholder register, which is the stakeholder register may be updated to reflect communications planned. And so, maura dito siya ang sa outputs. So, sa communication management plan, project management plan updates, and the project document update. So, sa outputs, kay update na lang na siya sa imuhang mga nahimo. So, that is for the first process. So, the second process will be discussed from my other group mates. So, thank you.
Yun, distribution, storage, retrieval, management, monitoring, and the ultimate disposition of project information. Then there was three managed communication belongs on managed communication. The input, tools, and technique, and output of this process are depicted in figure 10/5, 10.5. Input will be followed in the next page. To be discussed to the next page. For figure 10.6, depict the data flow diagram of the managed communication. The managed communication process. And this is the data flow diagram, which is the project management plan, project documents, monitoring and control project work, enterprise organizations, and the project documents, project management plan, and enterprise organizations. For managed communication. Next, managed communication plan. Project management plan components include but are not limited to. There are three: the resources management plan, communication management plan, stakeholder management plan. For resources management plan, wait. For, for the resources management plan, the resource management plan describe the communication that are needed for management of team or physical resources to the world needed for the management of team or physical resources. Then for communication management plan. Management plan describe how project communications will be planned, structured, monitored, and controlled. Then for stakeholder engagement plan, describe how stakeholder will engage through appropriate communication strategies. Then for the project documents that can be considered as input for this process include but are not limited to like change log, issue log, lesson learned register, quality report, risk report, and stockholder register. That's the project documents that consider as an input for the process. Then for work performance report are circulated to the project stakeholders through this process as defined in the communication management plan. For enterprises environmental factors. Environmental factors that can be influence this process is include but are not limited to the organizational culture, political climate, and governance framework, the personal administration policies, stakeholder risk thresholds, establish communication channel, tools, and system. Next was the global, regional, or local trends and practices or habits. And next was the geographic distribution of facilities and resources. Next page, the organizational process assets. Organizational process assets. The organizational process assets that can be influenced, this process includes but are not limited to also. The following are corporate policies and product procedures for social media, ethics, and security. Next was the corporate policies and procedure for issue, risk, change, and data management. Next was the original organizational communication requirements. And next was the standardized guidelines for development, exchange, storage, and retrieval information. And last was the historical information from previous projects, including the lessons learned repository. Next page was the managed communication tools and techniques. For the tools and techniques, the 10.2.2.1 communication technology. So communication technology factors that influence the technology include whether the team is collected, the confidentiality of any information that need to be shared, resources available to team member, and how the organizational culture influence the way in which meetings and discussions are normally conducted. For the communication methods, the choice of communication methods should allow flexibility in the event that the membership of the stakeholder community change or their needs and expectation change. The improvement or the way the communication. For the communication skills, communication techniques that can be used for this process include but are not limited to. The following was the communication competence, feedback like example including coaching, mentoring, and negotiating. And for the non-verbal, that's the part of communication skills and a presentation. A presentation is the formal delivery of information and or documentation. Clear and effective presentation of project information that relevant stakeholder can include but are not limited to the progress reports, and information updates of stakeholders. Background information to support decision making. Next was the general information about the project and its objectives. And next was the specific information aimed at increasing understanding of the work and objectives of the project. And next was the presentation will be successfully when the content and delivery take the following into account. And next was the audience, their expectation and needs. That's the target. Then for the next was the needs and the objectives of the project and the project team. It must need to be clarified. Then for the part of communication skills. For project management information system, PMIS. Project management information system can ensure that stockholders can easily retrieve the information they need in timely way. Project information is managed and distributed using the variety of tools, including electronic project management tools, electronic communication management, and the social media management. The for electronic management tools, project management software, meetings, and virtual office support, software, web interface, a specialized project, portal and dashboard, and collaborative work management tools. For electronic communication management, like email, fax, voicemail, like audio, video, or web conferencing, and websites and web publishing. For social media management, websites and web publishing, like blogs and applications, which offer the opportunity to engage with stakeholders from online communities. For the project report is the act of collecting and distributing project information. Project information is distributed to many groups of stakeholders and should be adapted to provide information to an appropriate level, format, and details for each type of stakeholder. And next, uh, interpersonal and team skills. Interpersonal team skills that can be used for these processes includes but are not limited to, like active listening, conflict management, cultural awareness, meetings management, networking, political awareness. For active listening is a technique and involved acknowledging, clarifying, and confirming understanding and removing barriers that adversely adversely affected and comprehension. Conflict management, cultural awareness, and for meeting management is taking steps to ensure meetings and meet their intended objective effectively and efficiently. There was the following step should be used for meeting planning or for meeting management, like preparing and distribute the agenda stating the objective of the meeting, ensure that the meeting start and finish to the published time, then ensure the appropriate participants that invited and attended, and stay on topic. And next was the manage expectations, issues, and conflict during the meeting. And last was the record all the action of, and those who have been allocated the responsibility of completing the action. Then for the networking is interacting with others, the to exchange information and develop contacts. Network provide the project manager and their teams with access and informal organization to solve the problems, influence action of their stakeholders, and increase the stakeholder support for the work outcomes of the project, thus improving performance. Then last was the political awareness. Political awareness assists the project manager in engaging assist the project manager in engaging stakeholders appropriately to maintain and their support throughout the project. Then for the meeting support the action defined in the communication strategy and communication plan. Then next was the manage communication outputs. Project communications. Project communication artifacts may include but are not limited to performance reports, deliverable status, schedule progress, cost incurred, presentations, and other information required by stakeholders. Then project management plan and updates. In in any change to the project management plan goes through the organization's change control process via a change request. Components of the project management plan that may be updated as a result of carrying out the process including but are not limited to the communication management plan and the stakeholder engagement plan. For the communication in management plan, when changes are made to the project communication approach as a result of a process, these changes are reflected in the project communication plan. Then for the stakeholder management engagement plan, the stakeholder communication requirements and agree upon communication strategies are updated as a result of this process. The next is the project documents updates. Project documents that may be updated as a result of carrying out of this process includes but are not limited to like issue log, lesson learned, register, project schedule, risk register, stakeholder register. For issue log is the lessons learned register is updated with information. Sorry. The issue log is the updated to reflective any communication issues on the project or how many communication have been used to impact issues. Then for the lesson learned register, in the lesson learned register is updated with information on challenges encountered and how they could have been avoided, as well as approaches that work well and what not work in management communication. For the project schedule may be updated to reflect the status and communication activities. Then for the risk register is updated to capture risks associated with managing communication. Then for the stakeholder register can be updated to include information regarding communication activities with project stakeholders. For organizational process assist update. Organizational process assist update may updated as a result for this process include but are not limited to like project record, such as correspondence, memos, meeting minutes, and other documents used on the project, and the plan, and the project reports and presentation. The, the monitor communications can be discussed and present to Angelica Ruby. Mm,
So as the last reporter, so my topic is the monitor communication. So the monitor communications is the process of ensuring the information needs of the project and its stakeholders are met. So the key benefit of this process is the optimal information flow as defined in the communications management plan and the stakeholder management plan. So this process is performed throughout the project. So here below is figure 10.7 is the monitor communications input, tool and techniques and outputs. And figure 10.8 depicts the data flow of the monitor communication process. So this is the data flow diagram. So the goal of monitor communications is to assess if the intended communication artifacts and activities have increased or maintained stakeholder support for the project's deliverables and anticipated outcomes. So to make sure that the right message with the right content, one that has the same meaning for the sender and the receiver, is delivered to the right audience through the right channel and the right time, and the impact and consequences of project communications should be carefully evaluated and monitored. So monitor communications input has project management plan, which is the component which is the project management plan components include but are not limited to resource management plan, communications management plan, and stakeholder engagement plan. Next, second is the project document. So project documents that can be that can be considered as inputs in this process include but are not limited to issue log, lessons learned, register, and project communications. Next is work performance data. So work performance data contains data on the type and quantities of communications that have actually been distributed. So enterprise environmental factors. So the enterprise environmental factors that can influence this process include but are not limited to organizational culture, political climate, and governance framework, established communications channel, tools and systems, global, regional, or local trends, practices, or habits. Last is the geographic distribution of facilities and resources. So, organizational process assets. The organizational process assets that can influence this process include but are not limited to corporate political policies and procedures for social media, ethics, and security. Organizational communications requirements, standardized guidelines for development, exchange, storage, and retrieval of information. Historical information and lessons learned, repository from previous projects, stakeholders and communications data and information from previous projects. So next is monitor communication tools and techniques. First is the expert judgment. So experts should be considered from individuals or groups with specialized knowledge or training in the following topics: communications with the public, community and the media, and in an international environment between virtual and communications and project management system. Next is the PMIS, or the Project Management Information System. So Project Management Information Systems gives the project manager a set of standard tools to gather, store, and offer internal and external stakeholder with the information they require in accordance with the communication strategy. The system's data is observed in order to evaluate the accuracy and effectiveness of the information it contains. Next is data representation. So a data representation technique that can be employed includes, but is not limited to, the stakeholder management evaluation matrix, which can give information regarding the effectiveness of communications operations. This is accomplished by analyzing differences between desired and current engagement and adjusting communications as needed. Next is the interpersonal and team skills. So observations and conversations are just two interpersonal and team skills that can be applied to this process in order to update and convey project performance, as well as to respond to information demands from stakeholders. Discussion and communications with the project team are important. So the project manager can recognize problem with the team, interpersonal conflicts, and other challenges through observation and communication, or problems with the person's performance. Meetings are face-to-face or virtual meetings are used for decision making, responding to stakeholder requests, and having discussions with supplier, vendors, and other project stakeholders. So the monitor communication output are work performance informations. So these informations on work performance includes data on effectiveness of project communication by comparing the communications that were implemented to those that were planned. Additionally, it takes into account feedback on communications communications such as survey findings on the efficiency of communications. Next is change request. So the monitor communication process often results in the need for adjustment, actions, and intervention on communications activities defined in the communications management plan. So these change requests may result in revision of stakeholder communication requirements, including stakeholders' information, distribution, content or format, or distribution method, and new procedures to eliminate bottlenecks. Next is project management plan updates. So any change to the project management plan goes through the organization's change control process via a change request. So components that may require a change request for the project management plan limited but are not include but are not limited to our communications management plan and stakeholder management plan. So communications management plans is updated with new information to make communication more effective. Stakeholder engagement plan updated to reflect the actual situation of stakeholders, their communications need, and their importance. Next is project documents update. So project documents that may be updated as a result of carrying out this process include but not are limited to issue log may so this may be updated with new information on issues raised, their process and resolution. Lessons learned register. Register may be updated with cause of issues, reasons behind the corrective actions chosen, and other communication lessons learned as appropriate. Last is stakeholder register, may be updated with revised stakeholder communication requirements. So So that is the last part of this report. So thank you. By the way, I'm Angelica Rubio.